journey down the rabbit hole of rock and roll's past, present, and future. It's Barstool Rockers with your hosts, Jim Finn and Dan Michaels.
So are you watching Game of Thrones?
No, and I heard you talking on the air recently about how there was a bit of outrage about the way things weren't going the way people wanted them to go. I have been there, done that. I was a big fan of Lost when Lost was on.
Okay.
And when the series finale hit, people just went nuts. They were so upset with the way it ended. And The Sopranos was the same way.
Just that click.
Bang. And people were upset. So that's what's happening with Game of Thrones.
Well, there's a lot of people out there who have this predefined view of what should be happening. It should be like the books wouldn't have done this. La, la, la. You know what? If you're offended by it that bad, write your own damn script.
Yeah. Go and create your own thing.
There you go.
Because these people, they know where they're going with it. And if you don't like it, well, that's just too bad.
Exactly. So, and of course, over the weekend, then some kind of bummer news. Meatloaf took a big fall at the Texas Frightmare weekend.
Okay.
He was doing a Q&A and he tripped over a wire, fell against the backdrop, and was taken off the stage.
So is he okay? Or?
It says, he's doing okay. He would not let the EMTs take him away until they gave him the microphone so he could tell the fans he loved him and thanked everyone for coming to see him. So I thought that was real cool. But yeah, they treated him at the scene, and he was taken to a hospital, and they've had him there for observation. So he's treated for a broken collarbone.
Hopefully he gets well soon.
Yeah.
He was at Texas Frightmare?
Yeah.
That's cool. So he must have been there for probably Rocky Horror Picture Show or something.
That'd be good.
You know? I mean, I'm trying to think, why would Meatloaf be at the
Frightmare.
Texas Frightmare?
Yes. Not a lot going on in news, though. It's kind of a calm tide right now. Paul Stanley's, making a lot of stories with his new book. Mm-hmm. And over the weekend, they were in Mexico and did a show for like 80,000 fans or something. There's videos all over out there. And Paul refused to get on the ring to go out and sing in the crowd for one song. Something wasn't right. So, that's completely understandable. If you're not happy with a device that takes you up in the air over thousands of people.
If it's not up to par.
Shimmies you out front. Yeah, that's a pretty good one.
So nothing going on with Ozzy then? There's
no news in Ozzy's world has been pretty tame lately.
Ozzy free. Well,
yes, okay. There you go.
Picking up the slack for Ozzy is two hard rock heavy metal bands that are now out there on the road together. Judas Priest has taken Uriah Heep under their wing and are now out on a North American tour.
Is that really under their wing, though?
Yeah, really, exactly.
I don't know, man. I think they're about...
Like, Heep is taking Priest under their wing.
There you go.
And now we have Uriah Heep's Mick Box on the line with us today. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, man. I've had a day of interviews. So
where are you calling us from today?
I'm actually in my office at home in London.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I've got an extension built on my house, and the nice thing about it is a view over the whole of London, which is really lovely.
Oh, that
nice. Can't suck. So Mick is on a
but the weather isn't lovely though. I think we've got 4 seasons in one day because every 15 minutes it changes from being windy to rainy to sunny to
Mick, that's
everything
nothing
else.
That is nothing. Here in Wisconsin it has been crazy for the past month
we had 70.
Really?
Yeah, we had 70 degrees, and then 2 days later we had like 8 inches of snow.
Yeah.
So wow, we're not that extreme.
Yeah, don't feel one bit bad over there. So,
hey, Mick, it's so good to talk to you today. Uriah Heep kicking off a North American tour as special guests of Judas Priest, May 3rd in Hollywood, Florida. You're going to be playing 2 nights at the Riverside Theater in Milwaukee, May 22nd and May 23rd. So you must be selling a few tickets there because you got 2 nights.
Well, it seems to be going well, yeah. We're very happy about that. Well, when you think about it, it's a great ticket. You've got nearly 100 years of rock and metal up there on stage, between the 2 bands. And I think the good thing about it as well is that, you've got Judas Priest with their new album Firepower, which which people are saying is one of the best of their career, and we've got a new album out called Living the Dream, which people are saying is the best of our career. So you've got two bands on top of their game. So, yeah, it's a good ticket.
Oh, my God, Mick, I got to tell you, the latest album, Living the Dream, it's been getting such positive reaction from both critics and fans alike. Mick, this album is just so damn good. It is so good. You guys got to keep going. You can't hang up the... Oh,
we have no intention, mate. We never look at anything other than the next tour, the next album, the next this. Yeah, it's just how we are, how we're built, because we still have a passion for what we do. We've got that same passion, which gives us the energy and drive to carry on, mate.
Well, like you said, Uriah Heep and Judas Priest both on stage for one evening. That is a hell of a evening of rock and roll. You guys got to be pretty excited about this tour. We're
totally excited. Yeah, we've got a history with them because we toured with them in America back in the 80s. So this is kind of a revisit. We did have a little taste of it because we did the show with them in Dortmund in Germany that went exceptionally well. And I think that's how this whole thing came about, because they were looking for a special guest, but they wanted an English band, and we were the perfect fit, thank goodness. So we're very happy about it all.
Yeah, that's really cool. Now, this album, Living the Dream, this is album number 25 for Uriah Heep. The Beatles.
Yes, mate, we keep doing it, don't we?
The Beatles didn't have 25 albums. That's amazing. You guys have been hanging in there, even though you've had some ups and downs throughout your entire career. But I got to tell you, you have so many amazing albums from the get-go, from when you started. And then this one, Living the Dream, and Demons and Wizards, The Magician's Birthday, Sweet Freedom. I could go on, Mick, but how the hell do you guys come up with a set list with such an amazing catalog like this?
Oh, well, now that is difficult, because when we're doing our own show, of course, on our own, it's not so much of a problem because we can spread it out a bit, but. With the pre-shows, we're down to an hour, so we decided that we'll just power through. We're just going to do, because it's going to be a metal audience, predominantly from the pre-side of things, and so we're going to do just a great rock show, and by the end of it, we'll be exhausted, I'm sure, but because we put everything into everything, 110%. So yeah, it's going to be a full-on rock show, mate. We probably start with "Graze My Heaven" off the new album.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And end up with "Easy Living," if you like, and everything in between will be rocking.
Are there songs the audience won't let you leave stage without playing?
In certain territories, yes, but we're still gonna do. I think with this set we've still got enough of the old stuff in there, sitting beside the new stuff that will satisfy everybody. Yeah.
Do you ever get to a point where you want to leave Easy Living on the shelf for a night and just play something new that you've got?
But you know what? You may think that, but it becomes new every night with every audience. Because once you start the initial riff, or once it's announced and the fists go in the air, and people start jumping up and down, that just energizes you beyond anything else in the world, and so it all becomes new again, and then you love playing it.
You talk about seeing the fists jump up and down and everything. Does a smaller room inspire you more than a huge stadium?
I love both. Okay. I got to be honest. I mean, you can have some magic nights in smaller venues. Because of that upfrontness, but on a big stage, you get a chance to branch out a little bit more and throw a few more shapes, one might say.
Well, and as Jim mentioned, you guys have so many albums. There's so much content out there musically for you, and you don't go toward the cheap direction with lyrics. You guys always put something intelligent into them. Where does all of that come from? You keep finding new material, and it's impressive that the band that doesn't go to sex, drugs, rock and roll. You guys always go towards something more intellectual. Yeah. So where does all that come from?
Yeah, I think we've always felt that, and I think one of the things about Heap's music that does get mentioned many times is that we've always had positive lyrics. And lots of fans come up to you and say, "Look, I've had a really difficult time in my life, etc., but your music helped me get through, help me get through that." And that's great. And some of your lyrics really just, hit me in the heart and get me through all the bad times I've had. And so it's wonderful when those things happen. So we do try to put a lot of emphasis on it, because let's be fair, a song is a song, and it's not just a melody. It's words too. So it has to say something for us. We can't just find a slogan and keep repeating it. That's just not the way we flow.
That's what they.
But you see, the other thing is, we play concerts in 61 countries around the world. So, there's a lot of things to talk about and to absorb. When you start putting pen to paper, it all comes through you. Channels through you, and you write about it.
I want to segue from that, Mick, because you kind of got us onto a topic here now. Back when Heep started, you pretty much started like 69 out of the Ashes of Spice, moving on to Deep Purple. In the early 70s, Uriah Heep, along with, Zeppelin, Sabbath, Deep Purple, you really helped shape the heavy rock musical landscape. But you guys were a little different than, say, Sabbath or Zeppelin, because you had a little bit more of a progressive sound. What do you account for that?
we kind of put our toe in the water of progressive music. We did go progressive. Very long songs that travelled. But I think the one thing that stood us apart from all those other bands was that we had 5 singers, and most of those bands just had the one singer. So harmony became a big part of our trademark, if you like. I mean, many people have quoted it since, but people have called us the Beach Boys of heavy metal. I think our vocal stance was not one of just singing along with the chorus. We actually used the vocals as another instrument. And if you listen to a song like Gypsy, block harmony, and lots of people cottoned onto that. And like I was at a festival with Brian May over in Europe at one time, and he was talking about how much they'd enjoyed our vocal performances and that it influenced them, Queen. So that's really cool.
Yeah, it's actually interesting that you bring that up, because I remember reading some interviews with Freddie Mercury where he cited the late David Byron as one of his influences. David, of course, was one. Of course, now Bernie Shaw is singing with Uriah Heep, but David was one of those charismatic frontmen, and his range was so amazing. Do you have positive memories of working with David?
Oh, absolutely. All positive. I never look at any of the negative stuff. It's all positive, because, David was not only a great friend, but he lost his way, obviously. Mm-hmm. But I would say that he's the only vocalist I've really, really known that actually lived inside the song. Yeah. He didn't just sing it as a vehicle. Every word was meant. He just lived it, and it was amazing to see, because, that's the only way I can actually explain it. I can't really articulate any better than he lived inside each song he sang, and it became him. And, and on top of that, he had the vocal range to pull it all off as well. And then on top of that, it was very, as you said, very, he had a lot of charisma.
Yeah.
And he's one of these guys on stage, the audience couldn't take their eyes off him because they didn't know what was happening next. And I guess that's no surprise to anybody else that the band didn't know either. But that's what somebody with charisma has, they've got that ability to draw you in and keep you in.
Well, I'm going to share a story with you, Mick, and I hope I don't completely bore you, but I was introduced to the music of Uriah Heep from my older brother. My older brother has about 10 years on me. And he served in the Navy. And when he came back home, he had this huge duffel bag full of cassettes, because he would get them, at a pretty decent price at, the KP there while he was serving in the Navy. And he had both Demons and Wizards and The Magician's Birthday, both on cassette. Right. And, he was probably, he was much older than me, and I was, just a young snot-nosed punk, and I would see these things, and I thought, wow, man, those album covers look so cool, And of course, I mean, it's such a different world that we live in now, with downloads and everything. And you've been there from the beginning with Heep, even, during the Spice days when you formed the band in '69. How has it changed the musical landscape? How has it changed in your mind? Has it been for the better or not so much?
Oh, it's changed drastically, hasn't it? The entire industry. And there's like all these things, there's good and bad to it, I mean, the good will probably be that, everything's so immediate now. But before, to find anything about a band, you used to wait for 6 months for a fan letter to turn up, didn't you? But now, almost the minute there's a bit of news, you can read about it or be involved with it. So I think that's a good thing. I think that the industry, as it stands, it's a bit of a shame that that our art is you don't get any money for it now.
Yeah.
That's all been taken away from you because it's very little that you receive. So the only way that bands can survive is to be out on the road. And so it's kind of gone back to that whole thing now, where out on the road is where it's at. But the trouble with that is everyone's out on the road. So then you have to find a special thing about yourself that stands you apart from other bands that people want to come and see. So, I mean, we're lucky enough as a band to be able to, in the 61 countries we play, we've got a great fan base, and we've been known as a really good live band. Some people will always come out and see us, but other bands, of course, struggle or get trapped in just one country. There's a lot of English bands that can't get arrested outside of England, and there's lots of European bands that can't get arrested in England, and but whereas we've been taken onto the world stage. So, I mean, the whole industry's changed. But do you know what you can moan about it, or you can embrace it. And I think what we chose to do was to embrace it and find the niche that works for us, and move on from there.
Now, you talk about the differences in the music industry now. What about the crowds? I've noticed a lot of bands tend to be more embraced and tend to do more of their live recordings overseas in Europe and everything, whereas in the U.S. it used to be a powerhouse for rock and roll. Now it seems like other countries have kind of taken that mantle.
I think it goes back and forth, doesn't it? I mean, it all started in America, then they had the British invasion. It goes back and forth, isn't it, really? As things happen. So, I can see what you're saying. But, again, it's a force that none of us can do anything about.
Living the Dream. It's the new Uriah Heep album. It's got that classic Heep sound. It's got Mick's signature wah-wah guitar. It's got that classic Hammond organ on it. It's if you haven't picked up Living the Dream, you definitely should go out. Rush out and buy that thing right now. Mick, you've never done a solo album. Why's that?
I never have the time because, all my time spent with Heep, and we do nearly 150 shows a year and then do recordings every other year. And I do most of the writing. So it's kind of, I really get no time. And I've got to be, if I'm perfectly honest, I've got a balancing life with my family and my professional life, which I love. So if I came home off a long tour for 2 months and then said to my wife, I'm going off with a bunch of guys in the rehearsal room to do this, and another 3 months in the studio, I think I'd get lynched. But I'm quite happy to come home, take off my rock and roll hat, and put on the family hat, and because they demand it of you, and I love it. You go with my boy, we go to football, we go out to meals with the family and stuff, and just do all the stuff that you've been missing while you've been out on the road. And so that's the main reason, to be honest. And the other reason is I could do it all, home on Pro Tools, as you saying, send files to people and stuff like that. But I in my heart to heart, I can't do that because, Living the Dream was recorded with the band in the studio in the same room at the same time, and sometimes without even a click track. And I think that's when you get the best out of music. Otherwise, it becomes very sterile, and that's what I buck against all the time.
So you guys,
there's a lot of people in search for perfection. They lose all the magic that was there in the first place, and so if I was going to do it, I'd have to do it right and on my terms, and I think that would put too much strain on my personal life.
I was having a conversation with my girlfriend the other night, and we were talking about how music has become so perfected, and everybody expects all this perfection. You just said you don't use a click track at times. Do you guys do much in post-production with the music, or do you just tend to go old school with it and say that's it, and if that note is wrong, that's the note I'm going to have there anyway?
Yeah, we old school it. I mean, Jerry Ruston, our producer, Canadian, living in LA now, but he was perfect for that, because when we chose a backing track, I mean, I've worked with other producers before. Once you've got the backing track, they try and put everything on the one with the bass drum, and they say, you go away and I'll try and get this all, you know. And as I say, in Search of Perfection, you lose the magic was there in the first place. The good thing about Jerry Ruston was he said, if that backing track sounds that good now, it's going to sound that good 100 years from now. Yeah. Let's leave it. So, you know, and that's the way I believe too. You know, this perfecting stuff is just sterile, and it takes away the heart and soul of what was there in the first place.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
For a band that has released 25 studio albums, I can't imagine any other band that has been that productive that wouldn't have their ups and downs throughout their career. But what is the glue that holds Uriah Heep together? What keeps you guys motivated?
Well, the glue you're talking to.
You're the glue. All right.
Good to meet you,
Elmer. It's my band. I've been there from the beginning. But, yeah, I'm the glue that pulls it all together. Yeah, I'm the linchpin for everything that's decided and gets worked upon, yeah. I mean, I'm a firm believer. The two things I believe in, one is, back in the 80s, I said, I'll never work with anyone again that I can't smile at on stage or work with or go and have a pint with or shake hands with or... You know, just being good company all the time, and that's not band members. That's crew, and that's management, agent, and everything. And I've achieved that.
You seem like
the second one. I can't think what it is now.
You seem like a pretty positive guy, Mick, and I think we'd love to share a pint with you when you play Milwaukee on those two nights, May 22nd and May 23rd. Throughout your career, you've played with a lot of amazing musicians, including John Wetton and Nigel Olsson, who of course worked with Elton John. Yeah. Who influences Mick Box?
Well, you know what? As I started guitar playing, I had a few lessons before I couldn't wait for the next lesson to turn up, so I went off on my own road. But the guy was a guy called Alan Hotchkiss, who was the second guitarist for Django Reinhardt.
Yeah.
So I started learning very much in the jazz field, you know, with Barney Kessel, Terrell Farlow, and Les Paul, Mary Ford, and stuff like that. So I was kind of into that, and then I grew out of that into, you know, Buddy Holly and Eddie Cochran and that sort of 50s rock thing. And then, of course, Jeff Beck was probably my all-time favourite guitarist, although I've never sat down and tried to work out one of his licks. But purely as a player, I mean... I define it this way, or I articulate it this way, that lots of people play guitar, and they put the guitar on, they wear it, but with Jeff Beck, he becomes that guitar.
Yeah.
You know, the guitar and him are one, and you can't separate the two. And that's why he plays so beautifully, and, you know, is innovative, is he can play with, you know, one note what lots of other people play with 100 notes, you know, and he really makes your chills go down your spine, you know, with his playing. So yeah, he's my all-time favorite.
Well, Mick, we really appreciate you taking time today to chat with us. I have one more question for you, and
yes,
by the way, thank you for being the glue that has held Uriah Heep together for all these years, because God, I'm a fan. I've been a fan, like I said, ever since my brother brought home that big duffel bag full of cassettes. But here's my
that's wonderful.
Here's my last question for you.
Yes, mate.
So you've had some amazing support bands with you. You've helped launch the careers of a lot of big name bands like Rush, Kiss, ZZ Top, April Wine, Foreigner, they have all opened for...
And Earth, Wind and Fire.
That's what I was going to say. How did that work out? How did Earth, Wind and Fire wind up... No offense to Earth, Wind and Fire, but how did they wind up opening for Uriah Heep?
Do you know what? Back in those days when you were touring, it was only good and bad music. There wasn't pigeonholed then.
Sure. Yeah.
So you got those. I mean, we worked with Ike and Tina Turner and Little Richard and people like that on bills. You know, there was no pigeonholing of anything of genres of music. It was just either good or bad, and I really liked that. I thought that was a really, really healthy situation because you turned on their fans and their band turns on our fans and stuff. And it gives you a chance to grow your audience, rather than just playing to the converted all the time. So it was a really healthy situation, but then along came the pigeonholing of music, and it started getting separated. But yes, we've had many great support bands, that have gone on to great things, of course.
Now, we've all seen bands that have had one too many on stage, but you've actually experienced a crowd that had one too many. What was that like? Well,
that was incredible. That was up in Helsinki in Finland. There was a show going on up there, a business show, and we were the entertainment that was going to come in the evening and play. But they'd been drinking from early morning, and the Finns can drink.
Yes, they can.
They can indeed, and they'll give anyone a run for their money. Let me tell you. And then, and so we went on stage, and I thought, blimey, they're up for it, and they were all shouting and screaming and all that, but it wasn't really necessarily directed to us. They were shouting and screaming at each other. And so we carried on, did our show, and it was all usually going down well. And to be honest, when we started announcing songs, you couldn't hear your announcement because they were all talking to each other and, all drunk, really. and then I was announcing a song. I think I was announcing Gypsy at that point, and I looked down and there's a front of house mixer standing in front of me, and I thought, well, hang on, you shouldn't be there. You should be up there working. And he called me home and said, look, call the show off, cancel, get off the stage. You can't do any more. It's finished. It's over. And I went, well, with all the noise going on, I couldn't really understand it. So it eventually got through to me, and we left the stage and all that, and we couldn't work out why. And what it was that people were getting so drunk that the police were coming and taking them into the local cells, but all the cells were full up, so they got nowhere to put the rest of them. So they were strewn all over the place.
Oh, that is a great story.
It was like an nail bomb had gone off. These guys lying all over the place, and they're peeing themselves, and it was a terrible state, half of them. But we couldn't finish the show. So that's the first time that an audience has been drunker than the band or anyone.
Oh, boy. That is a great story. And I think that's probably where we should end it today. It felt like we kind of feel like we shared a pint together right here. You're in London, and we're here in the heart of the Midwest, and it's been great talking to you, Mick. Mick Box.
Oh, likewise, my friend. Thank you very much. Happy days. Keep on rocking.
Yep. Cheers.
That felt so much like what we wanted this podcast to be from the beginning, was just friends sitting around enjoying time and conversation together talking about music. And that's exactly where it went. He was such a great guy. And you got on a roll there. I couldn't, like I told you, there are times when I just step back and let you do your thing because you're very focused, and it went well. You connected with him, and it was like, whoa, I'm going to stay out of the way.
Well, there's a lot of nostalgia there. First of all, Uriah Heep was one of the first bands that I latched onto early on, and I am a big fan of the album cover. Big fan of the album cover.
Love the artwork.
And the art with that Roger Dean artwork was just so phenomenal. And a lot of times back in the day, you would buy an album based on the album cover. You didn't even know what the music sounded
I guess so,
like.
Yeah, there's a lot of album covers that were definitely tempting.
Yes.
Even out of the rock genre. Do you remember the Taste of Honey album cover when you opened it up? It was the gal and the honey dripping. Do you remember that one?
Yes, exactly.
So, and that's not rock, but I'm just saying that one comes to mind. Or Paradise Theater for me. That one really caught my eye. There's a lot of them from that era. Kiss always tried to do that with Destroyer and Rock and Roll Over.
Those were great albums.
Yeah. And gosh, so much great artwork back then.
They put just so much into it. It really was an art form.
Into everything,
Hypnosis
though.
doing all the Pink Floyd album covers.
Yeah. There's into everything, though. And I love that he talked about how they record and don't use a click sometimes.
Yeah.
And they do it together in the studio live. And that's something that's lost these days. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
You're going to do it that way on stage, or are you going to use a computer on stage? And these guys are still doing it old school, and I love that.
And from the mouth of Mick Box of Uriah Heep, those Finns can drink.
We're going to have to isolate that little segment and keep playing it back episode after episode. Hey, thanks everybody for listening today. We really appreciate you taking the time out to do so. We want to invite you to check out other episodes we have available for you at the website at barstoolrockers.com. You can, we also always welcome subscriptions. Go to barstoolrockers.com and subscribe, and you can see all the different services that we're on. We're on Spotify, we're on iTunes, we're on Stitcher, we're on all these different things, and we are on, of course, the iHeartRadio app. And we appreciate you leaving a rating and reviewing it, and that just kind of helps other people find it. So there you go.
Wasn't that fun today? That was a good chat.
That was a good chat.
And he was calling from London, and it just felt like we were just, it Barstool Rockerish.
There you go. That's the goal. That was what we wanted to do from day one.
Until next time.
Thank you, everybody, for listening.